I don't shop that much in person anymore at the store. But the other day, I happened to go into a big box store and walk down the cereal aisle, and there are a lot of choices. I remember when I was a kid, seemed to be fewer choices, and I was like, this seems crazy. And so I did the research, and I actually looked into it. And in the 1970s, there were 160 cereals, 160 cereal choices. And then by 1998, there were 340 cereal choices. And today, with all of the little mini variations on things and all of the companies that have exploded, there are over 5,000 varieties of cereals today. Is it any wonder when we hit the cereal aisle, we're like, what do I do with this? Psychologists tell us when we get to that cereal aisle now, we have something called analysis paralysis, where we're just like frozen. There's too many choices. And when there's so many choices, sometimes we just grab whatever's closest or whatever's on sale instead of really thinking about all the different choices because there's too many. It's difficult to make up your mind when there's too many choices in front of you. I wonder if you, like me, sometimes when you look at our world and all the hurt out there and all the needs out there and the vast amounts of money it's going to take to solve all of that, and time, if you just kind of go, too many choices. Like, I wonder if you get analysis paralysis like I do sometimes because there's just so much need. And you get overwhelmed by the feeling that, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? What kind of impact could I make? What drop in the bucket could I make? And that's where I want to begin with our series, Do Good, as we spend the next 3 weeks talking about what does God expect of us as we look at the needs of this world. How does God see this world? And let's look specifically at some of Jesus' teachings on generosity and Jesus' teachings on what it means to be sacrificial and who we are and how we give. The Do Good campaign has 3 central words connected to it that we'll come back to time and again, and that is serve, give, and love. Serve is where we put our back into something, where we give of our time. So our students didn't put any money out this last Wednesday, but they gave their time. They spent about 2 hours putting these things together so that they can convert that time into funding for nonprofits. That's pretty cool. Some of us serve directly when we go downtown with our homeless friends. Some of us serve here at church. Many of you serve your neighbors and your friends. Giving is speaking specifically of financial giving because while serving is amazing and good, at the end of the day, every nonprofit, including this nonprofit, has expenses that can't be met by volunteering alone. Overhead, electricity, all of the little things we never think about and we don't want to think about sometimes, but someone has to think about because at the end of the day, OG&E doesn't take volunteering when we get the bill, right? So giving is speaking, yes, financially giving, being generous with what God has blessed us with so that we can empower others. And love. Loving specifically our neighbor as ourself. Looking at the plight of the person in our community that doesn't have it as good as we do and thinking, how could I want for them what I have for me? How do I love them as I love myself? And if you struggle with that, good. Because that's where we are supposed to be. Not ignoring it, not getting analysis paralysis and saying, well, I can't do anything because I can't do something for everyone, so I won't do anything for anyone. No. We said in year 1 last year, we said, do for one what you wish you could do for many. Go deep. Go hard. Give sacrificially. Love extravagantly. Serve willingly. Today, we're going to start in 1 John. And we're going to look here at this importance of cultivating compassion. 1 John chapter 3, in verse 17. It says, if someone has enough money to live well and sees a brother or sister in need, but shows no compassion, how can God's love be in that person? Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. So, talk is cheap, but action shows the true story. It's by our actions that we will show that we belong to the truth, verse 19 continues. So we'll be confident when we stand before God. See, we will stand before God and account for our words and our actions one day. And that scares me really bad, thinking about how silly sometimes I've been in my life, how angry I've been about silly things in my life, how jealous I've been about things in my life. And yet, we're given a choice here, a chance to turn things around. That if we see someone in need and we have compassion on them, we don't just say we love them, but we actually show the truth by our actions. And that's where we're going to focus on today, this idea that we can show the truth by our actions. There is a deep importance in the New Testament teaching, particularly if we were to look at the book of James as well, on this idea of cultivating action, generosity, empathy, compassion for others. Not just saying, oh, isn't that terrible? But saying, how can I enter into that space and make it better? How can I be a part of the solution? So not just to witness the needs around us, not just to know of the needs around us, have all the facts and figures memorized, how many homeless there are, how many widows there are, how many orphans there are, how many people are hungry, not just to know the data, but to take that and let it shape our compassion, our empathy towards solutions. And not just in our little bitty tiny group of friends, but for our wider community. I'm going to say something to you that shocked me when I wrote it this week. And I had one of those moments where I was like, am I really going to say that on Sunday morning? Am I going to say that? Because that's going out on a limb for me. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to say that. And it was this, that practicing is greater than preaching. Ouch, the preacher just said that. Yikes. Now, clearly I see value in what I'm doing, right? Clearly, for 24 years I've been doing this job, so I see value in the teaching. I see value in preaching. But there's something else going on, isn't there? There's the practicing. See, preaching has a goal. And like I said last week, this is not an academy. You don't get a certificate, a diploma. You don't even get 3 stars and you get a check mark or anything cool like that. You get nothing like that. We're not here to educate you so you're smart about Christianity. We're here to encourage you to take your next step. We're here to encourage action. It is the process of discipleship, becoming more like Jesus. That's what we're here for. So ultimately, the goal of good preaching is to practice it, to practice something this week. That's why we give you so many ideas and so many ways, practical steps you can take, because we want you to practice what we talk about. So if it is to practice that first word, to serve, we want you to take it on to serve someone. You know, maybe you decide to go with our homeless ministry. You go down that first Sunday of the month, coming up next week. You decide, yeah, I'm going to go and I'm going to help serve. Or you say, you know what, I'm going to serve in kids ministry, or I'm going to serve in student ministry, or I want to be on worship, or I want to do something on the grounds, or I want to help out another nonprofit in the community. Whatever that looks like. But we would love for you to take that first step, because we know as soon as you do, often you get a taste for more. And you go, oh, wow, this is what I was missing. It's like when you've had a really good meal after you've just been eating fast food for a while, and you're like, oh, that's what food is supposed to taste like. That's what volunteering can do for you. Serving someone without any expectation of repayment, that can really change your perspective. Give. Looking at your financial situation and thinking about how you can be generous with what God has blessed you with. This is another opportunity to not just hear about generosity, but to practice it. It's a very practical way. It's a very simple way that you can get involved. It's where you just look at your finances, you open your pocketbook, and you make a donation. And when you do that, again, it is like a taste. Generosity starts commonly a snowball of generosity because we see that it feels good to help others out. And then possibly one of the most difficult ones is love your neighbor as yourself. This is still tough to wrap our heads around. How am I going to care about someone as much as I care about me? I see that all my needs are met. How am I going to love someone as much as I love myself? How am I going to bless them? What does that look like in a practical way? It's why back in April, when we kind of kicked this up a notch from January, we had talked about how to bless your neighbors. We started this campaign in 2024 to bless your neighbors. We have a special app that is related to this where you can be a part of this completely free. We pay the subscription on your behalf. I get a list about 3 times a week emailed to me. I get updates in my app, neighbors to pray for, and many of you are doing that now. We have over 680 homes in our community now that we're praying for every week. That's over 1,755 people that have been identified there. And you can join that and be a part of that. You can bless others too. The software, the power behind the software is it doesn't pray for you. That would be kind of weird. But it lets you know who to pray for. Neighbors you may not even know live on your street or live just around the corner from you. And I think that's one of the challenges that we've been fighting against at Coffee Creek since we started, is we never wanted a large city to feel large. We wanted to localize it and not be anonymous, but instead be active about our prayer life and be active in our neighbors' lives. We have a book at the back that this is all based on called The Bless, 5 Everyday Ways to Love Your Neighbors and to Change the World. It's back there in the back, completely free to you. If you don't have a copy of this book yet, we'd love for you to take one today. Learn the Bless principles. Join us in the app. Join us and figure out how you can be a part of that. You can join by scanning that code behind me. You can join by clicking the button in the app today or respond to the emails I send out about this. We want more and more lights across our community. That's people that are praying for their neighbors because we believe prayer changes things. And the more that we're praying for our neighbors, the more that we're listening to their needs, the more that we're sitting down to meals with them, the more that we're looking for ways to serve them, the stronger our community gets, the more united we can be. Families are stronger because of it, and we all benefit from a stronger community, a community dedicated to knowing more about who Jesus is. So I want to encourage you to bless your neighbors. Through this series, Do Good, what we are particularly looking for is 100% participation. We got close last year. We got real close. And what does that mean? That means we take the number of people that call this place home. Some of them we see on Sunday morning. Some are online only. Some are a hybrid between the both. But people that financially support us throughout the year. And we ask that 100% of those people give to the Do Good campaign. Not a dollar amount. We don't do any sort of goal setting with this at all. We just say, whatever comes in, we will give away. So, over the next 3 weeks, if you give to the Do Good campaign, 100% of that goes. No administrative costs. We actually have people that have partnered with us so that all the transactional fees, if you were to use a credit card on our online giving, we pay all of that. We send 100% of what's coming in back out. That's the goal of Do Good. And so you can give online, you can give in our app, you can give as you leave today, you can give at any point in that. And we talk to our nonprofit partners and we don't promise them anything. We promise only to do what I just said. Whatever comes in, we split amongst you, we give out. We don't give them a dollar amount. We can't make any promises in that way. But we just say we're going to be faithful to what God sends our way to give. And so our only goal is 100% participation. So we're asking 100% of you to give something, anything. And then we will give 100% of it away. No shipping and handling fees. No transaction fees. Goes away. And in fact, if you give today, any gift, anything, towards the Do Good, we have one of these fun little coffee mugs for you at the entrance. So if you're new, you got one of these, recently, and so you're like, oh, I'll have 2 of these, sorry. But most of us don't have these. These are our guest gifts usually throughout the year, and many of you don't have this new design where it just has our logo on it. And so we have a coffee mug for you as you leave today. If you give any gift, give it online, give it in person, however you want to do that. But for any gift, we want to bless these. Now, next week, we'll have something different we're going to give you. We're just going to kind of do an added bonus for you each week, give you something because we want to bless you in that way and just reward you for taking a moment and giving to this special offering. We don't do many special offerings throughout the year. We have a Christmas offering, an Easter offering, and do good. So 3 a year that we do these special things. Regular, everyday generosity empowers everything we do here. And 3 times a year we do this special thing. So would you think about that? Would you start to pray about that? Because the 3 things that we're working on this year are food insecurity, homeless families, and education. And through those 3 different goals, we hope to come together for these different groups. We have some amazing partners. As you met Hope House today, then next Sunday, you will meet the Comfort Closet people from the Deer Creek District, where they'll come and tell us about this Comfort Closet and how it exploded over the summer, and how the Deer Creek Business Association came together to raise money and items for it, and they were cleaned out, literally cleared out of everything that they had gotten for them. And so you'll hear about that next Sunday. And then we'll talk about our consistent partner with our urban mission downtown in Feed His Sheep. And so we'll talk about that in our final and 3rd week. But one thing that I believe that really happens when we start to get focused on the main thing, if that makes sense, keep the main thing the main thing. We live in a world that just wants to divide us. It's so divisive in our culture right now. And you're on this side, and you're on this side, and you act like this, and you act like that, and we're just at each other's throats about every little thing that we have no clue about most of the time, right? And so politics wants to divide us. Socioeconomics wants to divide us. And we're just at each other's throats constantly. But I find that one thing that really unites us is generosity. When we look at someone's situation, we don't have to agree with them philosophically. We don't have to agree on a religion even with them. We can see a need and meet a need. We can come together and meet needs. And this is an opportunity that I think is really powerful in uniting us, in finding those things that unite us rather than divide us. I think when we see the needs of our neighbors and we let that touch our hearts in the way that God sees it and it breaks his heart, and then we come together, we can really start to have better conversations. And I like those conversations. I don't like these conversations where we just yell and yap at each other. I like conversations where we actually have a goal in mind. Just like preaching, I don't want to just stand up here and talk for 30 minutes. The goal of this is not to make you smarter or to go, wow, he's really smart either. I don't care about that. At the end of the day, I would rather you think I'm a dummy and yet you try something out that we've talked about that Jesus taught us to do, right? I'd rather you practice it. Try something out. Well, in a couple weeks, we're going to have a conversation on politics in particular. And again, unity for divided times. And I've been talking about this, but I think this will be a great opportunity for us to come together and have a talk about what does it look like in these divided times with politics and how it has run away with the cultural story to come back to the cultural story that Jesus is telling, and how can we be bridge builders. Now I know, again, many of you think, well, what matter will my voice make in the conversation? And you're right, it probably won't make much of a difference in the national conversation or the state conversation, maybe not even in our county, right? We live in such a huge county. But it can be terribly powerful for the people in that room to have that conversation. Just like you look at needs in our world and you say, there's no way I can meet all these needs. What if you were for a second to consider that, yeah, you can't meet every need, but you might meet one. I love what Mother Teresa said. 1975, she said, we ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean. But if that drop was not in the ocean, I think the ocean would be less because of that missing drop. And I think what she really embraces here is this natural tendency we have to say, well, my gift, my small token, my small generosity is just another act of futility. It's purposelessness. Why does it matter if I give or not? We convince ourselves someone else will give, or a billionaire will give, or someone else will meet that need. But the reality is, billionaires actually don't, percentage-wise, give that much of their wealth. The vast majority of charitable giving in this country comes from regular people, normal people, us. So, if we want to make a difference, we first just have to realize it's not futile for us to give. It's not purposeless. It has got a lot of purpose. And we can give. Because when we come together, that's the only way this church thing has ever worked. It never worked with one person. It worked with the community gathering. All those drops in the ocean make up the ocean. So when we all come together, we can do amazing things. Last year, I was blown away. I thought we might take like $1,000 in through the offering. And we did almost $10,000 last year. In like 2 weeks. It was crazy. I was blown away. Because we got a sense that, none of us was going to write one check, but that we could all participate. We could all be a part of this. And so as we got closer and closer to 100% participation, I just knew we were going to do it. We got really close. I think more and more of us started to see that beautiful picture. That it's not so much the amount that I'm able to do right now, but it's that I am being a part of something bigger than myself. And that's what we've been invited in to be a part of. You know, one of my favorite places for spiritual renewal is to go to the ocean. I love the ocean. And I love the ocean from the beach looking out. But man, when you're out in the middle of the ocean, like on a cruise boat, and you can't see land anywhere, it's like the mountains for me. It's just amazing. At the same time, it does two things. It reminds me of the beauty of creation, of God and how vast God is, but it also reminds me just how tiny I am. I'm this little speck out here on this vast, vast creation of God. And yet, even though I'm that small drop, even though I'm on this vast ocean, those drops work together. So, I want to invite you to make a commitment today to doing good. It comes from the scriptures. Ephesians 2 sets it up this way. It says, God made us. God created us to do good works, which God planned in advance for us to live our lives doing. I am not asking you to do anything that the scriptures haven't clearly and plainly said is your purpose in life. Do you have specific purposes? Yes, absolutely. Do you have different giftings and talents? Absolutely, yes. But every single one of us was created to do good. Period. We were created to do good. And God not only created us that way, he planned it out that we would be people that would do good in our world. That's why doing good feels good. You know that? That's why serving others feels good. That's why loving your neighbors yourself feels good. That's why giving feels good. It's supposed to. I think I heard somebody one time say, give till it hurts. And I'm like, what is that supposed to look like? Because like giving feels good. Being a part of something bigger than yourself feels good. It is a natural dopamine response we have because God made us that way. We encourage our community. We meet together. We pray for each other. And as we do that, we encourage each other towards generosity. It is one of the difficult things because our culture is so anti-generosity. Our culture tends to be very much me-centered and me-focused. You go in January to the bookstore, all you're going to find are books about how you can live your best life and how you can be better and how you can have more for yourself. I mean, there's people on TV trying to say that 24/7. Even putting the icing of culture and Jesus and Christianity and the Bible all over it, trying to just sell you this gobbledygook that it's all about you. And we hear that, and it sounds really sweet to our ears. It sounds really good because we're like, yeah, maybe that is right. I'd really like that to be true. And that's our culture. Our culture is just enamored with celebrity and with self and self-centeredness. But the reaction to that, the opposite reaction to that can be generosity. But we need help. We need to encourage one another. That's why part of the reason we're coming together on these nights and coming together with one another is to, the women specifically are going to identify gifts and how you can use and leverage those gifts. Guys, we'll come together tonight and talk too, but we're all in this together. We need to be there to encourage one another. And that's difficult to do on Sunday morning alone. So whether you're in a group or you're serving at a nonprofit or you're coming together with us, whatever that looks like, you need people speaking into your life. You need to hear from others. Because the bottom line is, generous giving demonstrates the transformative power of God's love in our hearts. Just like you giving is practicing what we're preaching, people can see God's love coming through you, through your generosity. 1 John 4 says, if someone says, I love God, but hates a fellow believer, that person is a liar. For if we don't love people we can see, how can we love God whom we cannot see? It sets up this logical problem that I think is brilliant. And that is, how can you say you love God but hate your fellow man? How can you look down on other people and claim to love God? You can't. Whether you understand them or not, whether you agree with them or not, all is immaterial. What is most important is how we participate in loving others. Even people that don't love us, even people that don't like us. How can we demonstrate what God has changed in our hearts? And that comes through showing others the love, practicing what we preach. So if you've struggled with this concept, how do I love God? Let's make it real clear through this series. It's very easy to do. It's practical. It's manageable. Love, serve, and give. And today we start with this very simple way. You can open your wallet. You can open the app. It doesn't really matter. But be bold. Pray about what God would have you give and then give that. Have that conversation with God. You don't need to have that conversation with anyone else. I mean, in your family, you can have that, obviously, but you don't need to have that with anyone else. No one needs to know. But just pray about what would it look like. And it's really not that. I used to think when I was younger, man, boy, that's a big ask for me to say, hey, we should support this. We should give our money to this. And then I realized it's really not that big a deal because it comes right from the instructions. 1 Timothy 6. Paul teaches Timothy, he says, look, tell them to use their money to do good. They should be rich in good works and generous to those in need, always being ready to share with others. Man, it just could be more clear. I don't have to go out on a limb here. I don't need a degree to tell you this. It's right there in the text. We should be using what we've been blessed with to bless others. We should be rich, not in bank accounts, not in stuff. We should be rich in good. What would that look like? How would that transform your whole perspective on life? Generous to those that are in need, rich in good works.